seekers, curiosity, whatever, those kinds of people, and general nerds of the future. I am Shaggy, I am Philalitea, and I am walking at night. So I'm leaving the Panera. Normally, I would be taking this time to quietly meditate on the delicious flavor of my favorite brand and type of nicotine product, but I am broke. I think I have 40 cents, something like that. I spent my last $5 on the snack warmer. Couldn't be happier about that. And a couple of packs of hot hands. In large part because one of the girls in Dollar Tree is nice to me and smiles when I come in and asks me how my day is going when I go through her line. And that's, you know, if you remember those old, I think they were those old Visa commercials back when credit cards had to sell themselves, had to sell their utility to you, to us. You know, there were those old Visa commercials where they would do the, you know, hot hands cost $1.25, and well, this thing costs $1.25, and 2 hot hands cost $2.50, but a pretty girl smiling at you and asking you how your day is priceless, and it really is. You know, there are men, depressed or otherwise, who will tell you the same thing. You know, I think I got blocked by some women who didn't know me as well as they thought they did, because I said that they didn't understand OnlyFans at all, that the men and the women were participating for the money, but the jobs they were doing was that. Remembering a guy's his username, asking him how he is, how you doing, taking the time to listen. You know, I'm convinced that Davey 504 he's not popular because people give a shit about his bass playing. He's not even that good. I mean, you know, he's whatever. He's better than I ever got, but he's not that good. He's fine. People cared about that damn thing he did at the end of his videos where he pretended to listen to you, and he would give you time to write in the comments how you were actually doing, and then he would pretend that thing. That's why he's famous. So many people on the internet are looking for a supplement to doing something about their mental health, to the point that, man, people will get on Twitter, they'll get on Instagram, they'll get on Facebook, they'll get on YouTube, and they'll talk about their mental health journeys. And they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll talk, and I'm going to put you in my armpit real quick. And they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll talk about how they've overcome X, Y, and Z demons, and when you really dig down on them as people, it turns out they're just normal, average, middle class trash. Just nothing treasurable about them at all, and they know it. And that, see, it doesn't make you unlovable, it just makes you like everybody else. Makes you like everybody else. Nobody's special. Nobody's special. You know, I don't know why. I don't know how you got it in your head to do this. A, to compete with fictional characters, and B, to compete with long dead historical characters. And then C, how as you've gotten into your old age, whatever age you are now, how you haven't looked back. You haven't looked back at any of the things you were taught. You haven't looked back at any of the things you assume to be true now and ask, but is that true? And I think it's because you don't know how to evaluate truth. Now, enter Shaggy Philalitea, all right? Philaletheia means lover of truth, and I can tell you how to evaluate when somebody's blowing smoke up your ass about whether they're a good person or not. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm telling you, I can show you, I can teach you, because it's not something you, that's what you don't understand. It's taken me a long time to break down and let you see into my life, let you see my face. I needed many layers of separation between me and my work. Many layers. That's why now I don't even bother with descriptions or thumbnails anymore. Fuck it. No layers of separation between me and my work. It's just me. You show up for me because I am the work. I put in the work. I did the metaphorical push-ups to be this, to be strong, to be able to look. I'm out of cigarettes, and sure I'm bitching about it, and sure I'm thinking about it, and sure my body is doing my body thing, but what I'm not doing is actually getting worked up over it. I've watched people so many times get so worked up out of being out of cigarettes. Like I have known many people who will do the go hit up the empty ashtray thing for just one cigarette a day. It's like, just calm the fuck down. Just be in control of your cravings. You can go a day without food. You can go a day without a cigarette. You can go a day without a bag of chips. You can go a day without hitting your bong. You know, you can do anything you set your mind to, right? And so that's why I made the Faith of an Empty Hand video. And I like that my shorts run not just up to, but they end before I'm done, because there's so much that I'm not saying. So much I'm leaving unsaid. Even now, even in this talk, you know, the other day I said in my tent that, I said in my tent when I was talking about Job, that every bad thing that God did to Job, that what Job didn't do was thank God for the bad thing. He didn't thank him for it. What he did is he would go into, you know, these cleansing purification rituals. He'd tear his clothes, or he would go into that Muslim style prayer mat for days on end, or he would sprinkle sprinkle ashes over the top of his head or whatever. He would do all of these things, but what he would never do is just change the core behavior. Anytime anything went wrong, he wouldn't just change the behavior. He never said to his kids, like, hey, maybe we skip a week and maybe we have Sabbath this week. You know, maybe we go and we thank God that you're able to do this for 51 weeks out of the year, and these sorts of things. And I see that someone has joined me. Thank you for being here. If you don't know, I am Shaggy. I am Philaletheia. Philaletheia is a Greek word that means a lover of truth, and I am almost home. I was talking about this in a short the other day. No, I wasn't. I was talking about this during Job, and I want you to see it, so you get to see it with me, and I'm excited about that for you. This is, that's not what I wanted. This is where I live. This is what I see coming home. And yes, I'm homeless, but I think of it as coming home. I've been here for 10 weeks in this spot. I've taken this path, and I have another one that's under a tree, but it's harder to see for the video. At least twice a day for 70 days. Oh, you know what? I think today might be day 80. And that would explain, if today is day 80, I'll have to do the math when I'm done with this live, but if today's day 80, that explains why today is the day I run out of cigarettes. Because God has given me different narrative cycle, drama type tribulations every week, every month, every 40 days. So there will probably be another one at day 400 if I'm still out here. I better not still be out here. In a year from now. This is my home. This is what I see walking up every day. I'm glad I had the camera I did. You got to see my tent. This is where I live. And I think you don't have to agree with me. You may or may not be a stranger watching with me. I don't know. I don't even know if my audio is good. But this is, sorry, I'm showing you the ugly spot because this is what I look at every day. I come and I look at this exact spot because this is where the hole is. So I make sure that that's not been tampered with. And then I said that this is something that I said that I wanted to do when I first came out here, but this is what I do every night. Oh, I don't have any control over my mic, but thank you for telling me. It's good to see you, Alf. Yeah, all I can do is turn it on and off. For whatever reason, it doesn't read from my Bluetooth. Yeah, I was watching on Twitter. I was just scrolling through Twitter, and somebody said that the fog over the trees and ravines like mine is fake. Well, there you go. I don't have the tech. And yeah, look at that moon. Yeah. You can almost see it right over there. It should be, yeah, you can't see it. It's not going to pitch correctly, but right over through those trees, you can just barely see it right in the middle of the frame. Um, there's a red light over there. There's a blinking red light over there. There's like an electric tower or something. And it's got an airplane light up there, but it wasn't visible from my tent until the day I quit reading Mothman. So I come home and it gets dark and I look up and I just see this blinking red light. And I swear to God, I stood there. I sat in my tent and stared at it for an hour. Like, oh my God, what is that? Am I alone out here? No, it's just a tower. It was funny to me though. So yeah, I don't remember what I was talking about, but I have been subtly and unsubtly accused of not actually being homeless. The last month, it's weird that it waited until I've been doing it for 2 months to accuse me of it, but I've been accused subtly and unsubtly the last month of not actually living out here, so not having the cigarette to smoke on my way out here, because usually, I started to say this, I think my move is to walk out here in silence with a cigarette and just enjoy the quiet. But I didn't do that tonight because I don't have a cigarette. And so that led to this live, which led to me being able to show my walk down here and a little bit of what the inside of my, well, I'm actually glad you can't see the inside of my tent because there would have been a label and all of my nicotine craving talk would have looked exactly like a brand ad situation, and I would have gotten myself and the nicotine providing corporation in trouble, which neither I nor they want. Somebody does though. I'm sure there's somebody who's, heck yeah, man, it has been yeah, almost 3 months, right around 80 days. It's like 79 or 80. And, one of the things, this is a good thing to talk about. Well, I've got Alf here, but whether I had an audience or not, I would have been, I'm going to put you down. Oh, you're not going to be able to see me if I do that, but I'm working on getting the light, so let's see if we can make this weak enough. But was going to struggle with having something to say because I was going to get distracted with I have chores I need to do. I left my I didn't feel like damn, I'm not gonna be able to get into this. I didn't feel like replacing the batteries in my damn overhead light last night. Well, this morning when I left. So I didn't. And now I'm gonna have to. And so again, normally I would have a cigarette in my hand during all of this, and so I wouldn't want the phone on, the camera on, and I wouldn't normally be talkative. But that's what I wanted to talk about, and now I can remember. Uh, a lot of religious people, they exist as the kind of people who want to boss you around. Like, when I encourage people to think in a radically different way than what they would normally think, I think they think I'm telling them how they should think. And it's more of a, well, you could, and then you could tell me which is better. I try not to should anything. Conditional, I try not to conditional language, because the only people who speak in unconditional, or the only people who speak in conditional language, would, could, should, the only people who talk like that are disingenuous people who are setting you up to lie to you. They want to lie to you. And so I offer a different way. Yeah, that's bright. Okay. Yeah, you can really tell when that's going out. It's a lot brighter than I thought it was. Okay, so light on in the tent. I'm back. Now we're going to go OnlyFans mode, because I need to strip out of some of this clothes before I get in there, because I am going to have a series of panic attacks. I don't know if you know this, Ralph. I've been struggling with panic attacks. I get over hot in here the last few nights. Okay. I bought a new thing for my neck, so I don't know how to get out of this right now. But a lot of religious people, they want to tell you how you should do it too. And they don't know why. And so because I know why they do it, I'm not doing that. You know, a word that I've been thinking about that I probably left off when I was, when I was still just talking to myself, gaming, in the very early days of me as a podcaster, me as a whatever, an artist, a public person, whatever you think I am, that's what I am. I probably left off at, oh man, my brain. What I'm kind of talking about right now. I wrote all day, Alf. I am sorry that my brain is kind of Swiss cheese. I'm not sorry that my brain is Swiss cheese. I'm sorry that I'm having so much trouble holding on to this thought. As I keep saying, I usually do this in silence, in large part so I don't embarrass myself like this. So just get used to it. But I used to take topics, take a topic or two topics, and smash them together and see what I know about them, and then see if I have any advice and any life lessons that come out of it. I used to do that. And I used to play video games and let my hands work and my mouth and my brain work while I was just listening to myself and see what I learned. And probably tradition. That's the word. I got there. I have mnemonics. It helps for writing. Yeah, thanks, Alf. Um, yeah, I think that tradition is where I would have naturally picked back up if I had kept doing that. I think tradition is the word and is an idea that I need to be working on. And so this was impromptu, and so I don't know how long I'm gonna do it. I've been writing all day. I don't know how long I'm gonna have the. I don't know how long I'm gonna have the stamina for it. So I do apologize to Alf specifically, but to the future as well. If I just suddenly am like, all right, I don't want to be doing this anymore, and then I'm not. But I got a bunch of bread to unpack, and tradition is one of those things that I don't think everybody really knows what they're talking about if they start talking about, well, it's our tradition, it's this, it's our that. Like if you just look at the word, it's very clear what tradition is, but it needs to be said. You know, tradition is what a family, a household, a people group does to make money. It's their trade. And then that got ballooned, literally. You could think of it as ballooning, or you could even think of it as an overfilled cancerous bladder if you really want to, but it got ballooned out to the state and greater people group than the family or the immediate tribe. If you understand, a tribe is about 40 adults. A much larger um, human population. And so then tradition wrapped itself up with, well, the word tradition got wrapped up in basically religious talk. Effectively, it got wrapped up in religion. But the reason it got wrapped up in religion, well, it's our tradition to do it in this way, and that's got the same kind of weight as religion is, because that's where religion began. Religion began as trade cults. I mean things, not even human people, entities, people as in bodies, the only persons, the only things that needed stuff in the way back. When I'm talking about, we're talking about, like the fucking ice age, up to about 6,000 BC. The only people who needed stuff made special for them, that also needed to be beautiful and something to be proud of, were the gods. They weren't even human beings. Um, the person specific, or like kind of person glorifying grave doesn't happen in human history until about 5,000 BC. So after after agriculture, and after world trade, and after the larger than the tribe um, identity. So people were identifying as people groups. They were identifying by language families, not even just genetic family types anymore. They were identifying by language families, but they were still burying each other the same. And the traditions, I mean, that idea of a tradition, it reaches all the way back to this time, because what made families different, what made people groups materially different was how they made money, but more important, it was how they served the gods with that money. And so you well, first of all, money didn't exist before 5000 BC. So one of the things that did materially change in this time period, and one of the things that materially changed was tradition, and why tradition needed to set itself apart from religion, and why I'm the only person who's ever told you that tradition is religious, because the trades guilds were religious first, is because it's a little bit insane, but also because the historians who say this stuff the upside down and wrong way have no experience with trades guilds. They have no experience with tradespeople. They have no experience with religion, to be frank. Even you'll see a lot of religious historians who just don't know shit about other people. What does this hurt your eyes? I don't know if you hello, I see somebody else has joined, but if you're watching, does my light situation is super bright, painfully bright, or red? Oh, hello again, Josiah. I was talking about you earlier. I don't know what I was talking about now. That light is distracting from me. uh, let's see if putting me over here is no. Well, then I can't hear myself. My mic situation. I'll figure this out, guys. I'll get this figured out. I don't really watch these back. I don't know what I've done with my hat. I seem to have lost one of my hats, and I'm going to be really upset with myself about that, actually. Because if I lost that hat, I've lost two of my hats. There's where I put that. Okay. Yeah, so I broke up my routine, and so now everything's going to be all messed up, and my brain isn't working anyway because I don't have the. I think tobacco is a mild stimulant. I know that it helps me focus on one task for long periods of time, which is ironic because then once your brain is done focusing on that task, right, it wants to break up the task with the nicotine. But whatever. We're out of nicotine, and that's just what it is. So we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight our way through that because there's a non-zero chance I'll make some money tomorrow, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, tradition is well, it's what we do to make money, because before money existed, well, it was just what we do with our time, and work is just what you do with your time. And before money, before the palatial economies of the fifth millennia BCE, um, and after, so cities like Jericho and Ur, and um, if you know anything about, if you know anything about Knossos, is really what I'm talking about, but it's much, much, much later. Um, this tradition, see what I'm saying, of the palatial economy, it lasted something stupid like 5,000 years because it was a really good idea and it really worked, and it cohered people together where the economy was an upward flowing totem pole toward the gods. And so you were elevated in civilization. Your status in the hierarchy was in how directly you served the gods. And so we think that priests and priestesses and kings and queens and these sorts of people were as elevated above common people like you and me as they were, because of how closely they dealt with the money. And that's just not true. Before the Bronze Age, the late Bronze Age collapse, it was because of how closely they dealt with the gods, because the gods were more important than the money. The money became important after the late Bronze Age collapse, when the global economy tanked and there was no way to make a living anymore. There was no way. The money is what keeps the bread moving effectively. The money had to be invented in order to feed the number of people that they had ballooned their populations up to, by the 5th century BC. That was the only way that they could make sure that everybody got to eat, was if money began, if something else began to represent the value of this money. I'm sorry, the value of this food. stuff, whether it be bread or animals. So like you'll hear people talk about like was the alphabet was invented, and the letter A is like a cow's head or whatever, and that may or may not be true. I don't. I've always been skeptical of it because the person who said it to me was somebody that I low key thought was really fucking stupid, and the Phoenician does kind of look like a cow head or whatever, but you for earlier than that, you got to kind of work to make that believable, in my opinion. But my opinion is bunk. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that the money is necessary. If it weren't necessary, we would have moved past it. And it's the only way that we as human beings, with the number of human beings that we have been able to figure out how what foods to grow, and then who is allowed to eat what rare things, and who is allowed to have what rare things, is with money. Because before then, the rare things just went to the gods. And then, so at some point, some practical person like you or me walked in to a room where they had all this rare shit, but nobody was allowed to look at it because it belonged to the gods. And even looking at it is in some way a privilege over the other people. So it goes generations without being looked at, except for by this specific class of people who get to eat all the best foods and they're dressed in all the best stuff, and all they do is polish it. And he walks into this room and he goes, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why do you do this?" And what's their answer? "Well, it's our tradition. This is our tradition." Well, it used to be how we made money. And so we really need to talk about like how many of our traditions make sense, because there comes a point, this is kind of my broader point. Man, that light is really inconvenient, right, being right exactly where it is. Like it's just always going to be inconvenient here. What if I make it spooky in here? Is this more campfire vibes? Anyway, there comes a point in every civilization. This is what I keep asking people. I keep asking people who think they're smart people. And I think both of you are smart. And I think the reason I know Alf doesn't have an answer and he doesn't want to try to have an answer. And that's how I know he's smart. Josiah, I haven't known you long enough to present the question where you've heard it, but not that I know that you've heard it anyway. Um, I keep asking people, like, what comes next? Well, what comes next? What comes next? Because there comes a point in every civilization where they look at the way that they do things just because they do things. And so what I mean is they look at their traditions and they realize we don't know why we do this. There's no reason to do this. It doesn't make sense to continue doing this. And yet we continue doing it. So like land markers used to be marked with human sacrifices because they thought that the ghost of the human sacrifice was going to be there to protect the land marker forever, and that anybody who trespassed against you was going to be cursed by this god. That's why in the Lord's Prayer that Jesus offers, he reminds people that God forgives trespasses, not just sins, but literally walking across boundaries that you didn't know were there. That he's literally the God of hosts, right? Who also calls off the demons who will haunt you for walking across boundary lines that you didn't know you weren't supposed to cross. And that's irrelevant to you as a modern person if you haven't read any of Augustine. Augustine makes it very clear in City of God. It's actually very funny, and it's either City of God or his other one. He talks about this all the time, but he makes the point that the pagan gods can't make sense because you can't have a god for crossing into and crossing out of thresholds and not piss one of them off. What happens when you're a cat? Like he almost made that point. What happens when you're the cat and you can't decide whether you want to go in or out, and so you stop in the middle? Now they're both mad at you, and so now you have these two demons that are just mad at you forever because you stopped in a doorway. That's insane. Rome, you can't have the god of cues, right? So like if you've ever, like of lining up in stores. So what? The people who don't line up properly, they go to hell? That's crazy. Like this behavior, it's unquestioned tradition. Well, we did that because we needed to do that at one point. Okay, so like think about it like this, like put it into modern context. What if we just never stopped doing the quarantine regs from COVID? for 200 years. And then in 201 years, a practical person like you or me looked around and sees everybody's wearing these masks, but nobody's been sick for generations. Nobody's even had the cold. We killed that shit 60 years ago, and we're just looking around like, why the fuck is everybody still wearing these masks? At some point, every civilization looks at itself and goes, okay, the things we're doing don't make sense. They just don't make sense. And there are so many things that I look around and I go, like, I don't have a list prepared. And I just go, why do we still do this? Why have we not come up with a better way? Like cars. Why have we not come up with a better way? Like, we understand that electric cars are they're actually not progress. They're actually a regression in automotive technologies, right? The electric car came out before the internal combustion engine in time and technology. So it's a move backward. That's a problem. And then I don't know. There are others. Just so many. I don't like to be that guy, that bummer, downer guy who's like, okay, well, that's busted and that doesn't make sense and that whole industry is stupid. And why does that still exist? Because at some point, like my family, my tradition, right? We were machinists. My dad, my granddad, my well, we don't know anybody before that, but whatever, my dad and his dad, and then my mom's dad, they were machinists. Well, that entire industry's gone from the United States. So what do we do with with all of the other religious aspects of the lunch pail ethos, right? So like sports is taking it. And so like if you're a sports guy, you'll see the kind of sports things that I see, but like the Harbaugh, I don't know their names. I don't know which one is which. Jim and John. The Harbaugh who's the coach, the head coach of the Chargers, he gave his guys for Christmas or for Thanksgiving or for whatever for a motivational. He gave them lunch pails that have like Harbaugh isms on them. But then one of the guys was showing off his lunch pail, and you're thinking, "Oh, that's cool, lunch pail." It connects them back to the guys from the 40s and the 30s and the 50s who played professional football because they were playing under the auspices of their employer, like your like your team softball, like your work softball team is how these original football teams got together, and that's what made them professionals, right? You'd get paid by work like 15 bucks to show up and represent, the steel worker union or whatever. It's irrelevant, the specifics, but oh cool, they've got a lunch pail like these guys who used to work for the steel workers or the machine shops or whatever, these lunch pails. And then you see it, and it's not even as big as an actual kid's lunchbox. It's this little, like maybe 2-inch deep little pail, like little embarrassing, just about only a little bit, maybe a half again as big as your hand is wide. And it's like, that's not a fucking lunch pail. That does not connect you to the history of lunch pails. Were actual pails, like actual, whatever it is, 2 or 4 or 5 gallon buckets. And so it just made me laugh that like we've kept this tradition around of saying we're lunch pail guys, right? And what does that mean? Okay, well, it means be like a blue collar guy. Okay, well, for the most part, you guys are A, African American, and B, all of you are college graduates. If you're not graduates, you're attendees of a university for minimum 3 years. The fuck do you know about blue collar workers? The fuck do you know about factory workers? If you met one, he was an uncle and you hated his fucking ass because he was annoying and hard as shit to be around because things had to be right. Things couldn't just be good enough. They couldn't just be creative-ish with people like that. And so there's a certain amount of like tradition isn't ethos. Tradition isn't worldview. Tradition isn't way of life. Tradition is literally the religio magical reasons why you do the things that make you money. And so I'm almost done. I've made myself laugh, and I'm feeling like I've moved past the nicotine cravings and maybe I can go to bed now. Maybe I've done enough work to earn what little money I'm gonna make on Patreon this month. That is a real thing for me. I can't sleep until I felt like I've done enough work. And so once dark comes after 8 p.m., it's hard to work. And so this has been fun. Thanks for being here, dudes. I used to do Alf knows. I used to do a lot of this. So maybe I just get back to this. Maybe I find a more comfortable place to put this stupid light and I'll have the I'll have things prepared to say. Who knows? And then yeah, you guys will know. The future will know my schedule that after 8 I get bored and so maybe I start turning my phone on and talking about nothing. But yeah, I think tradition is something that just humans, not me. I need to talk about it. I have talked about it a little bit, but I think we really need to just like stop and look at our traditions. Like, why do we do that? Because what I was okay. So here, like, if I were going to segue to like a grown up adult, like a big kid topic, I was talking. I talked to people about politics, not about their politics. Well, they want to talk about their politics, and that's fine. But um, I end up just pushing back. You know, that doesn't make sense either because they want to present themselves as frankly as demagogues, as the next person that I'm supposed to vote for. And then they say, "Well, I don't actually take it that serious." I'm like, "Well, you take it seriously enough that you fucking told me that without my asking." Anyway, I think that like we should the whole idea of like looking at our civilization and asking what works. You know, we have a lot of people, we have so many people that are just entirely disenfranchised with being alive, and why shouldn't their time and their effort be? Oh, Josiah, you're allowed to break my flow. I This is entirely impromptu. And it might actually make for a better show if you did that. So I don't mind. Um, because I didn't even mean to do this, to be honest. That's kind of what I was saying is maybe I mean to do this, and then people who comment often, I can invite people to stream with me, so maybe I can invite you to stream with me sometime or something. I don't know. This is entirely impromptu, and I know I make people uncomfortable with that. I've made Alf uncomfortable with that before. As there's a certain amount of I don't know. It's about I think I've figured out. I made a video about it. I think that what happened is Gen X has this conspiratorial bent where they blame their government for not teaching them to be critical of their governments. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, your government's job is not to teach you in middle school to be critical of your government. Your government's job when you're in the middle of the Cold War and you're in middle school, your government's job is to teach you that everything is going to be fine and here's how to keep it fine. And so they've got to this place where in the post 9/11 world where just doing what they were told to do when they were in middle school isn't working. It's like, well, no fucking duh. I love you, but no shit. No shit. Everything you learned in middle school was to get you through middle school, man. It was to get you a foundation to build on into adulthood. It wasn't the end. There's so many people, so many Americans that I run across that think that like what they learned in 8th grade was the end all be all of that subject. And it's like you were in 8th grade. How can you think that? How could you have thought that? How did you? I would really like to know. And I'm not being. I'm trying to be fair. I know I sound very critical, and I am. It's critical, but I'm trying to be fair. Like, how did you get to that conclusion? Because it's unthinkable to me, right? I obviously I didn't get to that conclusion. So how did you come to that conclusion? And then yeah, okay, fine. You're going to feel like a test subject because you have become a test subject. You have become the counterexample of my worldview. I need to know exactly how you came with every single bullet point, every single detail. How did you get to this crazy idea? And how did you survive with it? Because I can imagine times in my life, obviously I can't bullet point them and be specific with them, but when people say things like this to me, I can imagine countless times in my life where that thinking would have definitely gotten me killed. And so it's just like, wow, you made it to a more advanced age than I am with some really bad information, really bad ideas. How did you get there? Why won't you come off of them? And so it doesn't sound like it sounds like I'm passionate more than compassionate. It sounds like I'm taking the piss out of what might be somebody's entire worldview, entire self-conception, and that's not what I'm ever doing. Um, I know what that feels like, and it's awful. I wouldn't I wouldn't do that on purpose, and that's not a promise. I might do it on purpose. There are people who need it, but not about this. And so yeah, now I've run out of steam. I know I haven't talked about anything specific, but you know, um, thank you, who the one of you who's still with me. Thank you, the other who bailed. I'm sure that I said I was leaving. I'm from the Midwest. If you've never heard of a Midwest goodbye, just look that up on your own time. But thank you for being here. I'm gonna commit in my mind to. I've been saying I want to do this, and it's been too miserable cold. But I think maybe I think I've been down on myself and my ability to do it. Yeah, Josiah laughed at my Midwest goodbye. I told Alf I was leaving, and Alf was like, "All right, good, he's leaving," and fucked off, and I haven't left. But I've been saying that I was going to invite you into my tent and just see what I'm thinking about, what I'm talking about, and what I'm working on, and I've been saying that the whole time I've been homeless, and I think today might be day 80, which means that it might be time to nut up or shut up, right? Yeah, Midwest goodbyes take a really long time. Telling my grandmother goodbye is a 2 hour venture. You're not leaving. We just don't like to say goodbye. We could every time we're like, all right, I think that's everything I wanted to say to you. Nope, that's not everything I wanted to say to you. It's been a long time since I talked to you, and I've thought about a lot of things between then, and I got a lot to bounce off of you to make sure I'm not insane. Because that's what it's like to live in the Midwest. The people that you can really trust to listen to you close are few and far between, and the further away from big population pockets you are, the worse that is. That's how you can look out on the world and be like, how is she with him? He was the only person who complimented her in 2 months. That's how. Okay, thank you for joining me, Josiah. I am ready to go to bed. Kiss your lady for me, or whatever is the appropriate thing to say today. People get really sensitive about that. um I'm glad that you have a partner. I'm glad that you have love in your life. That's really important to me. Other people's wins are a big deal for me, and my ability to self motivate joy. So like, people tell me it's good to see you struggle and survive it because I struggled and it was hard for me. I like to see people winning because I've never, my wins have always been poison. So feel free to share those in the comments. Future you, Josiah, awesome. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I used to have a whole thing I said. I'm glad to hear that she's a rare gem. It's important to remember. I think he's probably an age contemporary. He might be a little older. He might be younger. It doesn't matter. It's important, young guys. If you're listening to this and you're listening to a 37-year-old man because you want advice of how to grow up to be somebody other than maybe what your dad or your stepdad or the males that you know are like, remember that your girl is a treasure. She's the diamond in the rough, right? There are 4 billion like her, but she likes you, and that ain't fucking nothing because the others don't. And it's really important to focus on how rare she is, and just the way you think. And so maybe that's what I need to talk about, because I was just laying the groundwork for if I were to do 2 hours on tradition, and uh, habituating your thoughts is what tradition is about. And so maybe there's something about us attacking and undermining our traditions of respecting and deeply loving our women is something that I should talk about, because that's something I don't think people would know that I'm passionate about, because it's something that maybe I shouldn't after all the women who've broken my heart. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Josiah. Take care of yourself, and future audience. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making it through 50 minutes of yes. Let's make some new traditions. I think we're really at that point. I think we're at the point where it's time. And so I don't know what that would look like. And so that's why this isn't that episode. But yeah, I think that's where we're at. And I think I want to spark other people thinking about it, and then just tell them their ideas are bad so they work really hard at it. All right, take care. This is the real goodbye. Thank you, Josiah. I plan to. Tonight, I plan to.